welcome back the director of Slash, Clay Liford.
Hey, thank you.
Hey, before we start the Q&A, I just want to let everybody know. So if you pick up our Future Wave flyer out in the lobby and open it up in the center, there's a coloring page for the movie Slash. Yeah. If you color it and take a picture and send it to us, you're eligible to win a fantastic prize. So.
Holy crap, I had no idea. That's so cool.
Sorry it's so bright.
No, it's okay.
Hey, before we, I want to ask the audience some questions, but before we do, I had a couple of questions I want to ask you.
Sure.
Also, go to the Slash the Movie Facebook page. If you like the film, there's a lot of great stuff on there, but there's a fantastic clip I was just watching this morning. I think you probably know the one we're talking about, with Michael Ian Black and Missy Pyle reading from one of the best erotic / fictions I've ever heard of.
Right.
Can you tell me about this story?
So when I've known about Slash since I was 10 because it's been around for a long time. It's very pre-internet.
Yeah.
But I was a con kid. My dad would usually drop me off at conventions with like $20 in my pocket. Be like, I'll pick you up at 9 or whatever. And I just wander around. There was always like this 18 up room, right? Where it's like, what's going on behind that door? When you're like, 10, it's like everything like is a mystery. So interesting. But Slash has been around for so long. I kind of fell off my radar for a couple years, and when I was looking for a metaphor for a movie, because it's so hard to like talk about like outsiders or people who are on the fringes like in a good way, like
right.
Now society, because like everything has been so co-opted by mainstream media, so like the things that I was ostracized or would have been ostracized if I had the balls to admit that I liked them when I was in high school, like Star Trek is like now it's like dude bros watch Star Trek, so it's not even like a big deal anymore. So I was like looking for something that was still kind of on the margins, and then I remembered this, and I started reading some stuff again, and then this is the longest way to get back to what you're saying.
No, that's fine.
The story that I was obsessed with was this thing called Tiny Hermione, which was this Harry Potter erotica, which is the one I specifically, we had a lot of our cast reading erotica. We would contact the writers and be like, hey, do you mind if this, minor celebrity reads your thing on the internet, YouTube? And almost to a man, they're always like, yeah, sure, this is great.
Yeah.
So we kind of saved the best for Missy and Michael, and that was Tiny Hermione, which was this, like, weird giantess porn. Apparently it's a whole subculture of its own that could be its own movie.
Mm-hmm.
But giantism, like we started getting like weird
like she becomes a real like an 80-foot giant.
Yeah, we got some crazy like fan mail based on that from people in the giantess community, which is a whole other thing. It's just like every time you peel an onion layer, there's another onion layer. Right?
Yeah.
It's like
Anyway, I highly recommend that video. It's amazing.
It's a two-parter. It was so great we had to make it a two-parter.
One of the things I really liked about this film when I saw it was obviously Neil, the main character, spoke to the nerd in me that I was when I was a kid. But I really liked the character of Julia because she was so tough and also so vulnerable at the same time. Was that how you originally envisioned her character, or was that something that the actress sort of also brought to the role a little more than?
Well, I always like to say that the reason I'm not a bad novelist is because like I don't like to create in a vacuum. I like the idea of like life interfering and other people's input interfering. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, if I wanted to make art in a bubble, I could just be a terrible novelist. But I have these other great people that I hire, and they lift me up and they make me look good. I like to think that like 9/10 of my job is being a good team builder. And then it's like getting the fuck out of their way and letting them do what they do best. And Michael Johnston, who played Neil, and Hannah Marks, who played Julia, are both so incredible, and their collaboration level is so intensely high. Though it was very mindful on my part that like there's kind of a razor's edge where the Julia character could be the worst thing in the world, which is that manic pixie dream girl, which is the worst conceivable, like, that would be, if anyone ever called her that, I think that would be like the worst thing. That would be like a direct kick in the balls.
Yeah.
And it's to Hannah's credit, and to the fact that we worked so hard against that she's not, because she's very in your face, but at the same time she's very vulnerable, and there's a lot of contradictions there, and so much that's Hannah bringing to the table. Like, that Hannah's definitely the prime example, because like this is my 4th feature, and my other 3, or a lot of them, were working with friends and like have an occasional, like there'll be a cameo with somebody you kind of recognize or whatever. But like, this is the first time where it was like, I mean, Hannah, because I brought Hannah and Michael in early to rehearse and to work, and I knew within 5 minutes of meeting Hannah that there was no slacking involved, because she was like in my face, had questions, like in the best possible way.
Yeah.
She's the best collaborator.
Yeah.
Like, there was no like bringing anything other than my A game to the table with
She
her.
was working really hard to build like a three-dimensional
She
character.
absolutely put me through my paces in the best possible way, and
Yeah.
she's like, I would jump through fire for her. She's amazing. But yeah, she was like, there was like, I was like, let's let them do their thing, because like I'm this director where I come in this place where it's like everything I want you to know about the character is like baked into the script. I'm not a big backstory person, and I personally don't believe, like, to me that's like homework for actors. If they were tradesmen, in the same way they would be like picking a lens would be homework for a director of photography or something like that. It's like that's great that you do that. I don't want to be part of it, but like I was not allowed to do that in this case.
Yeah.
And that was all Michael and Hannah, and they basically raised my game up so much.
Speaking of backstories, did you create a whole Vanguard world that we only saw a little piece of in the film?
There's a fair amount of it. I kind of like, I cheated a little bit because there was this, it's in a non-litigious way. I don't think they come after me. There was a book series I was kind of obsessed with.
Turn the camera off.
Yeah, turn the camera off. There was a book series I was obsessed with as a kid called Retief.
Oh,
it was
yeah,
like Keith
yeah.
Lorimer.
Yeah.
It was like this like space diplomat, and he was supposed to be going in there to always solve these space diplomatic issues, but ends up killing everyone. So my idea was like, oh, what if it's like Retief, but instead of like going in there to fix problems, he ends up fucking everyone. Like, so that was like kind of like that, and I would show the art directors like covers of these Retief books that I was just like very like these very like old Avon and Bain books. Book covers. Like the 80s were the best time for like bad paperback novel covers, and like from just the best.
That's what the art direction of the sci-fi scenes kind of reminded me of that era.
Yeah. It's a little dated. I'm old. Like,
oh, that's great.
You could throw me a bone, guys. I'm old.
The last thing I wanted to ask you about that was kind of surprised me when I saw the film was the direction that you went with Michael Ian Black's character. Mm-hmm. How he didn't turn out to be necessarily a creepy pedophile. He just liked to read slash fiction and write about young people. But when it came down to the wire, he was like, oh, no. What was your decision to sort of go in that direction, sort of not villainize his character?
That was the first decision that was made.
Yeah.
Like, that was like one of the earliest decisions that was made. That was always that way. Like the idea of kind of like, I mean, that's the closest thing I guess we have to a fake out in the movie. Mm-hmm. Where, I mean, the only thing that's like spoiler worthy, I suppose, in this terrible spoiler society we live in. I don't even think it's a spoiler.
Spoiler, there's lots of sex in it too.
No, it's just, it was just always like it's not like it was always about low-hanging fruit. Like it was always about avoiding low-hanging fruit. This entire movie, like from the get-go, because easily, I feel like there could have easily been an Adam Sandler version of this movie where it was just like very pointy and like, look at these people, you know. That's my Adam Sandler impersonation, by the way. It's terrible. But it's not the least bit interesting to me to try to do that. And like, look, I don't honestly think anybody necessarily who isn't into this world, like the milieu that they're involved in, would like walk away and be like, I'm gonna write slash fiction tonight. But I at least think that hopefully almost everyone would at least understand why the characters do what they do. Mm-hmm. Whether or not they're interested in specifically pursuing that, like I feel like we did our best to try to like explain what the value is to the characters. So but it's open, and that doesn't really answer the question of the Michael Ian Black thing, but it was just never even a thought that he would be anything other than what he is. That he would be like, to me it's like he could be what Neil would be in certain years, and he was just kind of like, I wish I could tell you these things about yourself, and he really kind of offers the moral of the film, I suppose, which is about like, when you're young, you put a lot of your emphasis on areas which you want to find out later are not necessarily, you fret about things that you don't necessarily fret about.
Right.
And that was a big thing that he's like, no, just like,
you can take your time.
You're doing one good thing over here, just keep doing this thing that you're good at, and this like this other stuff, it's like it'll come out in the wash.
Yeah.
And to me that was very important.
Well, I thought that went a long way in the film toward, I definitely could tell when I was watching this film that you weren't trying to make fun of anybody that was writing slash fiction or anything. They were all real, real growth characters, which I thought was really cool.
It's a tough line. I gotta be honest. It's a tough line.
I mean, it's still
a line
funny.
that we've encountered. Some things on the internet with people thinking that we're making fun of them, but it's like, look, it's a tough line because it's like, look, I have nothing but empathy for everything that's happening in this movie, but at the same time, we're at a comedy, and it's like. So there's a world, there's like a subset of slash fiction which is sometimes referred to as crack fiction, which is like the zanier stuff, which is sometimes written purposely to be humorous, but oftentimes just like you don't really know what the intentions of the writers are.
Yeah.
But like, we've had different versions of the script, and I would test the script like crazy. And we had versions where it was really like poetic writing. And that just doesn't work in a comedy, but then we always would have to kind of like squeeze it more all towards the what they call crack fiction a little bit more. So yeah, it's you serve a lot of masters when you make a comedy, and it's like hopefully it's like trying to find that balance between like how do we find the heart but also have the humor at the same time,
Right. Well, I think you did a great job.
Thank you.
Let's take a couple questions from you guys. Anybody have a question for the director of Slash? Yeah.
So one thing I really liked was you kind of subverted the traditional kind of, not just a romantic comedy thing, but where boy and girl meet, they're friends, and they fall in love, and eventually end up together. I like how you subverted that. So what made you decide to not take it the traditional route and have them end up together in the film?
So he's asking about why to not take the traditional like boy meets girl and then boy ends up with girl. There's kind of like two things. I guess I'll go in like a little overly in depth for you, but the easy answer is that I wanted to make a coming of age movie for kids that don't have a coming of age movie, that the kids that don't know where they fall in this matter. I was about to say on the spectrum, but that's a whole other thing. And I feel like the moment that you define Neil, that you put him in a box, you've taken away 50% of your audience's movie. You've robbed them of their movie. Like I feel like very pretentious saying that because it's not meant to be pretentious, but like there's so few movies for kids who maybe are figuring things out. And I feel like the second that I say he's this or he's that, then it's like if they happen to connect with this movie, I've just robbed them of their movie, and they've taken their movie away. So it was very important to me. In fact, this is actually the only fight I ever had with early on that I had with my manager and my producers, because they're like, well, as a director, you need to know. And I'm like, no, I don't. I don't need to know. I'm such a pushover, and I never stand my ground. But it's the one time I firmly stood my ground, and then like to the credit of all my team, they all kind of came around on the idea. But the other thing, just to kind of build on that a little bit, that I found very interesting as far as like gender politics in movies, like there's something you always see whenever it's like a romantic comedy that's female-centric, but you never see it with male-centric comedies. Romantic comedies is like, it's always if it's like a female-centric thing, it's like, what does Lolo want? She's like flitting and she's like going from here and she's going from here, and she's just like, I don't know what I want. And it's okay for women to be flighty, but like men don't get that. Like men have to be very like, I want this thing. It's like Top Gun. It's like, I'm gonna be the best fighter pilot in the world. And that's like literally like the first 5 minutes of Top Gun, somebody like he fucking says that. It's like ridiculous. So like, I was like, I want to make that like, what does Lola want movie for a man? Like, cause I feel like gender-wise we're there. Like, and it was just, you never see that. And I wanted to have him be kind of flighty. Like, I don't know if anybody recognized the rhythm of the film, but it's very specifically in the edit, like anytime he has an issue with Julia, we go straight to a Jack scene with him and his Jack stuff. It's like he would just bounce a lot because he was trying to figure it out and he was flighty. And that's not like a word that's a positive word that's attributed to characters, but like, especially to men. So I don't know,
Well, that's kind of what it's like when you're a teenager too. Like you're not just settling on one thing; you're exploring all these different avenues at the same time. We need to wrap up, but before we do you have any good stories from? You actually shot at a Comic-Con.
Oh yeah, we shot So the Comic-Con in the movie is an amalgam of 5 different locations, 2 of which were real Comic-Cons. We shot at Comic Palooza in Houston. That was like the main one. We shot at Wizard World Austin. And then the rest were places that we made. So, and then the script was always written that way. I've done a lot of like, because I did a short film, we did the same thing. And I did another test for another feature that never got made about kid actors that were at a convention and got into a huge fight, but whatever. But I've done a lot of like shooting these like real locations where we had permission, but the general public didn't know we were doing it. So it's kind of Borat style, as I call it. So there would be a lot of scenes where they, like the big vista shots, they'd be like, wow, look at this huge, awesome place we're in. Hey, let's go in this corner now and have this long dialogue scene. And then we'd cut to our set. It's amazing what sound design and color correction does. Plus, having those Comic-Con banners and what we call it in pipe and drape. Pipe and drape that's a term I learned in this film. It's like you have a thing, and it has a big long curtain, and it has the Comic-Con sign, ties the room together. You have it, you bring that to the real location, you shoot it, you bring it to your fake location, you shoot it, and it ties the room together.
Yeah. We used it a lot during a film festival.
Lots of pipe and drape.
Well, cool. Well, thank you again for coming to Seattle, bringing the film here.
Thank you.
There's the Facebook page. Is there any place else where people can get information about what's happening next?
We're old school, so we're at Facebook / the movie at Facebook, and then @ the movie on Twitter. We've got a bunch of stuff coming up.
Okay.
We'll be in all over the U.S. and then some overseas starting pretty soon.
All right.
But yeah, thank you guys. Yeah, and please, if you like it, please follow. We're desperately trying to show our distributor that we're not fringe. They're like, this is for babies who like space sex. I'm like, no, it's for adults who like space sex, not just babies.
Tag them with your coloring book pages.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.